I am the executive director of a Portland-based nonprofit called Friends of Noise.
I'm an independent artist and book arts educator.
I'm a writer, storyteller, writing teacher, community organizer.
I'm a co-director of Co-Locate Design, and we are a nonprofit design justice studio focused on organizing advocacy and design as tools to dismantle systemic injustice and create a more just and equitable world.
I work with Vanport Mosaic to do youth programming and am currently looking to do Fred Hampton Summer Camp this summer.
I am the founder of the Afro Village PDX project. Afro, as I mentioned, is a root word for connectivity of culture, community, and roots. Village, we've heard that African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. And since I've been back in Portland, I've been able to build tons of relationships with folks.
I don't think it takes a lot to get from conversations like, we're having in small groups today to actually getting things done.
This idea of having the doers, the resource contributors, the community connectors, these sort of different levels of, the creative ecosystem come together. Often in these spaces, especially like the nonprofit industrial complex space, it requires us to sort of come to these people where they're at, who have, the power and the influence.
This room is about 1 or 2 degrees of separation. And so it's already, given the intimacy and scale of the city, already has some amount of interwoven aspects. However, also there's a lot of still missing pieces and missed opportunities and missed connections. So I think this is serving as a platform, at least even to deepen that.
For me, what the Doers Gathering is about today is being able to learn from other artists who are working in other mediums, but perhaps we have common goals. How can we connect and have conversations? How can we share and build power?
Wow, I think the biggest need is access to spaces where young people in particular are able to express themselves and be heard. During the pandemic, there was a rise of community actions in the form of protests around the validity of Black lives and how they've been oppressed and marginalized and exploited. I had gone to a rally where we couldn't hear the people talking because all they had was a bullhorn. The inability to project their voices to be heard was detrimental to the growth of that movement. So Friends of Noise and myself in particular, we started taking what we called a mobile PA unit to about 20, maybe even 25 protests over this summer of 2020. And if we can make sure that more people are heard, hopefully they'll have an impact.
Think about it in terms of racial justice, social justice, housing justice. You don't just do one thing and then you're done. Design justice is really a movement, again, oriented towards using the tools of design, particularly spatial design, architecture, planning, landscape architecture, to create spaces of repair and regeneration, and where communities of color and of culture can thrive and be rooted in their places, and not using the tools of architecture to just continue to displace and serve people who have the most privilege or resources already.
The community almost doesn't stand a chance if it's changing more rapidly than we can even educate the youth. These young people who are actually going to school in these communities from grade school to high school and not able to learn faster than the space is being absorbed and retransmuted into a different thing.
I think the most vital thing in Portland that needs to be done is for there to be more conversations like this, and for us to be able to prioritize coming out of this pandemic the things that we're not willing to recreate in a post-pandemic world, the inequities and injustices that we're not willing to be complicit in nor a part of. How are you curating your time and your investments and your policies for justice? How is that even happening?
One of the things that got talked about a lot in both the story circles that we've done so far is just how important relationship building is in this work.
It's not what you know, it's who you know. We're learning about contracts, W-9s, our taxes. And I've done this and think that it's important for all of the organizations that have a mission to help the community to be able to support people who are trying to get where we're at, to share that information because we're living in scarcity.
I actually feel like relationships are a critical sustaining step. So I would say the next step out of this gathering is to keep the conversation going. I like to use the word dialogue with intention because a dialogue means that I care about you. And I care about everything that brought you to the place that you're at today. And I care about moving forward with you somehow together.
There's a lot of power that comes from us being able to connect with each other intentionally. Even if it's, in some cases feels like we're having discussions we've had before, it's oftentimes, what happens in between.
When people have not just the access, but also the encouragement and support to be able to explore their own experience and their own voice in this world, that is how we connect, and that is how we dream, and that's how we make something new and different. The most radical things in the world are called radical because they're slow, they're giving, they're free, they're received, they're made by and for people to just be able to live in relationship with one another and the land, and creatively and joyfully.